Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast with Borg, Betz, and a baller.
Welcome on back. It's a post-combine edition of the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borgnoni, and I'm joined by Matthew Betz and a little bit older Mike Wright.
Just a little.
Oh, just a little bit older.
What are you now, Mike, like 35 or something?
Yeah. Yeah, looking 35, feeling about 62.
Oh,
Oof. Rough
That-
guy out of
that'll-
bed or what?
No, your body just starts breaking down. It's not jokes.
it's no longer funny. It doesn't hit the same way.
It's still funny. I'm just telling you that as you youngsters, you youths, as you are rapidly spiraling down, looking at middle age, just telling you, people are like, yeah, you get to about 40 and then everything just starts falling apart. And it is not hyperbolic. It is, in fact, just what happens.
Like the morning of your 40th birthday.
Yeah, you wake up 40, you're about 5 pounds heavier than you were the night before. Your back hurts. Like, it's hard to put your shoes on. Just get
Mike's
ready.
just living the dream, man.
Living the dream, boys. That's why I have to talk for a living.
I did used to laugh at Jason when he would talk about like how his kids would help him put on his shoes and socks and stuff. And I was like, dude, what are you talking about? And now I realize, like, in the morning when I'm like putting on my shoes and stuff, I was like, it's a little bit further
It's
than
getting
it used to
harder.
be. It's not the same.
Man, you guys,
It's way down there.
this is sad.
Yeah, it's going to be, Betz. It's going to be.
And what's hilarious about the timing of this conversation is that we just saw incredible athletes do, kids really, but incredible
Kids.
athletes do some amazing things in Indianapolis this past weekend. So I'm excited to get your guys' thoughts on that. But relatively speaking,
and some
not the
guys,
same.
some guys ran a 4.39 and were like,
I would
That's
have
not
loved
very-
the 4.33.
yeah,
I
that's
would have
not
loved
very
that, but
good. Sub 4.4, try again. Give it a go at your pro day.
What do you think about potential NFL players? And like part of the process is interviews and just getting a vibe. Like I know there's some stories that came out about Shadur Sanders of like, oh, he didn't take everything as seriously, or we didn't get the vibes that he wanted this. But also there are the players that talk a big game. Isaiah Bond, one of them that we were referencing, where it says, I'm going to do this. So you're setting the expectation ahead of time that you are this person. And when it goes not as good, which 4.39 is fine, he was saying he's going to run a 4.2 or whatever. It's just bad, man.
Yeah, well, look, they're kids. They haven't. They're elite, right? I mean, these guys athletically, you don't wake up one morning and all of a sudden you're this. Like you work extremely hard over your entire adolescence to get to that. And like, I would put money that Isaiah Bond has been fast his entire life.
Yes.
Like he was the kid on field day who's just torching everybody. And you're like, what? How is this the same thing? But they have not stumbled into under-promise, over-deliver.
that's the key.
It will never, ever steer you wrong. Ever.
I don't know why, not just like in this example, but like guys coming off injury. We joke about it every year, every May, June, July. We've never seen someone so far ahead of schedule. It's like, no, dude, if
Right.
I was coming off an ACL, I'd be like, yeah, I'm tired. Yeah, my leg doesn't feel the same. And week one, you just explode and you're like, look at that guy. Like, he's way further ahead than we thought. I would do the opposite personally, but no, these guys are always very confident.
But it's like, okay, Bond goes out and let's say he breaks the record. Hypothetically speaking, which he didn't. He wasn't even the fastest wide receiver who ran the 40 this weekend. Let's say he does it. Are we extra excited because he declared he was going to do it? Like, no. The excitement will be Isaiah Bond breaks combine 40 yard dash record. And so just, boys,
he was going for glory. And in a job interview, which is what this is, like I was thinking if we got hired for a company called the Fantasy Footballers and we talked a big game beforehand, and then we just show up and be like, I didn't do as well as I thought. Like, your initial reaction is...
You're like, I type 80 words a minute. And it's like, yeah, well, you clocked in at 60, dude.
Did you not get in the reps in middle school when you were doing your typing practice? That was a big deal, by the way. Middle school typing class?
Computer lab? Heck yeah, dude. Did you guys have computer lab where it was like it's the games? So like you're playing a game where you're trying to land, I don't know, some rocket ship.
Like Math Blaster.
No, it's not full Math Blaster. This was just a game where it's literally a game, but then the next section is questions, is like arithmetic questions, and then you do all those, but then you go back to the game. It wasn't completely integrated like Math Blasters is. The game is the math. Mm-hmm. This was literally play the game, do the math, do the typing tests, and then go back and play more games. You didn't have those?
Familiar. It sounds familiar.
I'm old.
I just remember we had a class called...
Mike.
Yes.
Yes. This podcast so far has declared that you were old. I just remember our class was called computer literacy, which, like, going back now, it sounds like so 1990s.
Yeah.
So fancy.
When they're like, this is a mouse. When you move it, the pointer moves, and then you click it.
Create a folder. It's just like really simple tasks that, like, that's what
learn it.
That's what we had to do. And now all the kids, they understand it. So on this episode, by the way, we will be doing a 2-round rookie mock draft that I think at the end of the day, I really care about where the tier breaks are, and maybe you guys can have some differing points, because there are some running backs. That's my biggest takeaway too from the combine is there's just, I don't know, 15 running backs that I think are in the conversation where last year, if you remember, it was, okay, when do I take one of these running backs? Where do I take them in the first round? And all of them completely busted if you were hoping on some year one production. So I'm really interested in where you guys have the tier breaks. All of our rankings, you can find them in Ultimate Draft Kit Plus, udkplus.com if you want that. Mike, you are updating your rookie rankings right now. And
that is correct.
I know that there's still some debate. Like we're going to talk about Travis Hunter today of like, I still don't fully know what to do with him, but you can find those reflected and we're going to get more information. So all the rookie rankings, our production profiles are being updated post-combine to include their explosive scores, everything else that adjusts for weight. So all of those, you can find them at ultimatedraftkit.com. But with the combine, what were your biggest takeaways, Betz? I'm going to start first with you, and maybe you can go broad, and then if there's a player or two you want to point out.
Yeah, I don't really have anything like specific this year. It didn't seem like there was like one thing or one guy that everybody was talking about. It like you said, the biggest takeaway is like we could see, just because of the insane athletic testing and the insane class at running back, like, I don't know, 9, 10, 11 running backs go in the top like 100-ish picks, which is crazy because when you think back to last year, we had what, like 2 or 3 total in that range. So yeah, I'm really interested to see like how the NFL views this huge group of guys that are going to go in the second and third round, where it really doesn't feel like there's a huge discrepancy between a lot of these guys. So it'll kind of be more of a scheme fit, maybe like a pick your flavor type of thing for NFL teams. But yeah, the running back showed out, like you said. That was my biggest takeaway. I will say, like from a quarterback standpoint, I would have loved to see Jalen Milroe run because he has had zero momentum in a positive direction like since the season ended. It feels like, just when you listen to other NFL draft type shows or read content, like he didn't throw well at the Senior Bowl, and it was like, okay, like we know the hand size might be an issue. Shockingly, now his hands are huge. I'm not sure what happened there. I'm not sure what happened there.
Back.
How does that happen, by the way? He measured like 5 weeks ago, like a full inch shorter.
He just bloated his hands as much as possible.
They're fine.
Like, there's got to be a way to stretch your hand out.
I don't know, but his calling card, I think for teams to be like excited about him, and honestly, like for us to be super excited for fantasy, is like, we want you to run, man. And I think he had a way, opportunity, I should say, to separate himself as like the most explosive quarterback athlete in this class. And teams care about that. I mean, Anthony Richardson was the 4th overall pick in the NFL draft. Teams care about that a lot. So I thought he was a relative loser because he could have been a winner if he ran and showed some of that explosiveness.
I did a little bit of research, and this is on the website, so if you want the full write-up, but really looking at what matters with Combine and looking at just a history of each position. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of things we overvalue. I think Mike joked, like, what if the article's like nothing matters? The Combine doesn't matter. But I would say overall, wide receivers is one of those positions where you really don't have to worry about it. It usually confirms what you already see on game film. I will say the gauntlet drill does give you some signal of this player can move, even if they don't run a fast 40 times. So Puka a couple years ago was one of those guys that killed the gauntlet drill, and you kind of see that at the next level. But I would say for me, the running backs, I'm just seeing so many that I can say like they're explosive. It's one thing to say this guy's a good 40 time, that's fine. But like the broad jump, the 3-cone, there's some guys here that I think are in the mix. And I just said, like, I don't know how many are going to end up on day 2, but it wouldn't surprise me if I list 10 to 15 guys. I could see any of those guys end up on day 2. So I think there's just, for rookie drafts, I'm excited for people.
Like there was some weird stuff, like Caleb running the 40. I think he came in at 4.57, and it was like, what?
Like, didn't match.
It did not match the film. Tez Johnson clocked slower than he, at least in my opinion, he seems on the field.
Pour one out.
I'm not saying he's like, he's not Xavier Worthy or anything, but it's like he seems faster than that. And also, be careful with the combine of where, like the athletic measurables, those things matter a lot for fantasy. Like tight ends, we want, when you're taking a dart throw, you want the most athletic guy possible. So Ferguson, he balled out. He was the most athletic tight end. He will probably be a later round draft, but he'll be one of those guys where, like, okay, the combine is giving me signal that this player has a chance, because I mean, draft capital matters, always matters the most, but there's guys, especially at the tight end position, that they weren't first round guys, and they still end up popping off. See George Kittle, super athlete, but when he fell in the draft. And the other thing is the combine helps dictate the draft, which draft capital helps dictate who you should be selecting. So do not double count the combine. Like the NFL teams are already counting it for you. So don't see someone you're like, oh, I'm blown away by that speed, and they were drafted in the 3rd round. And you're like, I'm going to take him over this high 2nd round player. Like, you might need to be careful right there, because the NFL is already counting it as a positive for that player.
I'm interested with Matthew Golden when we get to him today, because we knew he was fast.
I think he moved himself up.
I mean, I think he was already getting, and we play a game where we look at the mock drafts, we also look at team needs, and then we're kind of like putting the puzzle pieces together and saying, like, oh, this kind of looks like a 1st round player. Production-wise, when we did the wide receiver episode, we were all kind of down on like, is this going to work? Is this worthy of a 1st round player? And maybe in this year's draft, because the supply and demand is different, than maybe he is. But that is one of those players where I think it would be easy for us to double count. Like, whoa, he ran a 4.29. Oh, he's a 1st round pick. It's like, well, he was already kind of going, and now this maybe solidifies it for the NFL team.
Sure.
More so
I think
than just us.
The Texans are very hard. Or Texas, sorry, the Longhorns from Texas, both Bond and Golden. I saw a lot of people having the discourse of like, what happened here? Because these are 2 talented players. The production is way down. They seem like they're incredibly athletic. Let's find out at the combine. Turns out, yeah, they both are extremely athletic. So it's like, is Ewers just not good enough? You know what I mean? Of like, how do you have 2 of these dynamic wide receivers, which, I mean, I have to imagine that they both go within the first 2 rounds. How do you have 2 of those wide receivers and not give them production? So it was an interesting conversation, seeing people go back and forth trying to figure out what happened with those guys' production profiles.
I've got the answer for you, Mike.
Okay, give it to me.
Some guy named Gunnar Helm is the wide receiver 1 on that roster. Led the team in reception share last year, even though he ran slow as molasses. He banged up his ankle. That's
Poor
probably
dude.
why. But I know, I felt bad. The testing numbers, if you just look at them for Gunnar Helm from the combine, were completely atrocious. But he rolled his ankle, and so maybe that's, presumably that's why. We'll see if he tests better at his pro day. But he led Texas last year in reception share, which that's like why I can't get over that with the Texas guys. It's like, if you're that good, like, you should be commanding the offense, and they just never did. So I don't know. But Gunnar Helm had a 19% reception share, which is pretty good for a tight end in college. So I don't know.
I feel like
it's weird.
I feel like Gunnar ran that probably the correct way. If you missed it, Gunnar Helm is a tight end prospect. He should get some pretty good draft capital here. Rolls his ankle on a false start on his first 40 attempt. Am I remembering that right? And it's like, imagine being that guy in that moment, and you're just like, dude, my ankle is jacked. But if I quit right now, number one, you look ridiculous. You're like, you hurt yourself false starting a 40-yard dash. So he went ahead and did it. Was quiet the whole time.
He's a gamer.
But then leaked out the pictures, and we all see how bruised up his ankle is, and you're like, oh, okay. Maybe this is a man out there working on a bum ankle. So shout out to Gunnar for fighting through that, because that thing looked nasty.
The Texas Longhorns, like, I think we're going to be talking about this team that Ewers has been a part of, because a couple years ago they had Bijan, Roshan Johnson, Jaden Blue, the running back this past year, like, had a ton of receiving work. They had Worthy, they had Adonai Mitchell, they had all these players, and so the ball kind of got spread around. So they get a knock in a lot of our metrics of, you just didn't command targets the way that other wide receivers just got funneled stuff. Like, you look at the Iowa State wide receivers, there's two of them, Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel. It's like, they got the type of per route numbers that stand out, where you go over to Golden and Bond, you're like, this is middling. This is like a third, fourth round player just on production alone. Golden obviously had the blow up at the end of the year that makes him look even better, but it will be interesting. Like, I right now, like, we're going to talk about our first two rounds. Like, Bond is not in my top 24. Do you guys have him there at all?
I do not.
He's kind of fringe, but
he's like fringe, right? He is, like, I think I have him in a single QB. I've got him right about 25 right now.
And we talked about him last week. Like, there is an opportunity for him in the right offense if he's a vertical threat and he's not asked to be the number one wide receiver. It can work. For fantasy, might be a little different. But let's take a quick break, and then we'll get into that mock.
The Fantasy Footballers Mock Draft.
We are going to jump into a 2-round rookie mock draft. This is going to be one quarterback. And so for those people that are like, oh no, you're not talking Superflex, we will give caveats all throughout on the website. We have our 2 QB rankings. We have a rookie rankings, a production profiles, all of those. I would just say for this year, there are so many positional players, especially at running back, that we didn't have last year, and so few difference-making quarterbacks that the supply and demand just looks different. So I will just say, if you're playing Superflex and you're used to saying, here's where I take quarterbacks, I would argue it's going to be different. We don't know exactly where Sanders is going to go, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe. We have a pretty good idea about Cam Ward being a high draft pick, but we're going to kind of let that dictate things. I don't know. Any quick Superflex thoughts before we jump in, guys?
No, I mean, if I'm doing a Superflex draft right now, Cam Ward's the only one I have any type of confidence taking him early. And I mean, I guess you take him at you could take him at the 2. I don't know that I would. But just like Sanders, the rumor mill is so all over that I just don't have the confidence right now without the NFL explicitly telling me that a team loves Sanders. Also, then my question for Kyle is, in the event that Jackson Dart is drafted above Sanders, what type of parade are you saving up for? Are you throwing? Is it a whole? Are you going to hold it in Georgia? Are you going to hold it in the city that drafts Dart? Where's that party going to go? Because I want to be there.
Hopefully he goes to a fun team. That, like, the problem with any quarterback prospect is, like, especially with him, when we highlighted him, we highlighted all the things that could go wrong. I know that apparently he's my boy now.
He's my guy.
Apparently. I do think it just matters on team fit. It could train wreck. This could be so bad. This could be so bad. But the rushing, like the low-key guys, like the dude can run. And I think at the next level, like you could get 20, 25 yards per game, which, come on, it's fun for the game we're playing.
Jeez.
I think he's gonna be a first-round pick, though.
Calm down, dude. You don't have to get so defensive about your guy. I will say
I
he
love
did
that
seem
he was
to pick
like
up
all in, and now we call him on it. And he's
Whoa,
like, "Whoa, what?
I was
That's not my guy."
I was never all in, and then
baloney. Great A
I will say
baloney.
Dart did seem to get some steam from the combine. So
All right,
who
let's
knows?
get to the mock.
Let's
I'm
mock.
happy for him. All right, the way this is going to go, it's going to go Mike, me, then Betz, and we're just going to repeat that way, go through the first round. I will be interested to see y'all's tier breaks and kind of talk through that. So for the 101, we're going to let Mike start. He gets the easy one, but I want to start off by asking this question. This comes from one of our moderators on Discord. Are there any scenarios where you wouldn't take Genty as the 101, Mike?
So it feels impossible at this moment in time, but the NFL draft surprises us. But it's like, let's say Hampton goes in the first round and then Genty doesn't. Or Hampton goes earlier and then Genty goes to a team that like he gets Derrick Henry'd, right? Where you're like, no, there is an entrenched good starter on this team. And those things do happen from time to time. I'm not going to project that right now, and just the confidence in Ashton Genty is about as sky high as it can possibly be. So he is the easy 101.
I do think that we will run into an issue with these running backs, or because we have a supply of, I would say, at least 5 guys that I feel really excited about if I had them on my roster. And then beyond that, we're trying to figure out team fit. But does that eventually push them down the board in the NFL draft? Jason brought that up the other day on the Made Pod. Is like, do teams look at this and go, you know what? Instead of spending pick 24 on Amari and Hampton, I can go and find him at pick 45 or whatever it is, like in the second round. Like that's the conversation that I'm trying to figure out. And maybe it doesn't really change anything for the game we play, right? Does that shift things that much? I mean, a first round running back's a first round running back, but like,
I don't think it does. Kyle, I think a good research piece for you would be like, has there been a year like this where we have so many high quality running back candidates and then they actually got drafted later? And then maybe we've had some higher success rates in coming out of the third round. I don't know. I'm just, off the top of the head, has it really ever happened? But I think that, in my opinion, Genty, Hampton, and Travion Henderson are difference-making running backs who it wouldn't surprise me if all 3 went in the first round. And I'm not a first-round running back drafter. I get mad when the NFL does it, but I think all 3 of those guys have the opportunity for it to happen.
do you so I'm up next, and I think Hampton is almost in the same tier as Genty. I almost want to put him in a tier of his own, where
I mean, I'm not putting him there, but I can see that he tested really, really well, and the rumor mill on him has improved.
yes,
And it was already great, but I was just saying, like, it's improved.
I feel like he's checked all the boxes in the pre-draft process that I thought he would. I did see a mock draft today from Dane Brugler, and he had him going to the Broncos in the first round, which is kind of funny considering that
Where did he
draft.
put Genty?
He put Genty 6 to the Raiders, which felt a little too hot for me.
Man.
So
I'm just trying to think of, back to that question, is there any way you would take Hampton over Genty? But it's like, if Genty went to the Raiders, I would actually be pretty excited about it.
yeah. What's funny about Hampton is the Broncos did take a running back out of UNC who was a tackle-breaking machine named Javonte Williams. And so you're
It was going to work.
I think so, too.
I know so. It was going to work. And then that injury, I don't think he ever got it back.
It will be fun to go back, and I have an article every single year where I kind of look back on picks, but like he's going to be one of those guys 5-10 years from now that's like the poster child of like in Dynasty. I thought I knocked it out of the park. Injuries aside, like this is the dude. Same thing with DeAndre Swift. At the time, like this is the dude at running back. I wonder if Breece Hall is going to be one of those guys too, who did have some elite years. Okay, so
we're not allowed to say that out loud, Kyle. We can all think it, but we cannot verbalize it. It's bad mojo.
All right, so Genty, Hampton, Betz, you're on the clock at 103.
Yeah, I think a lot of good guys that you could pick with this selection here at the third overall one. I'm going to go to wide receiver, though. I'll take T-Mac. The shine seems to have kind of worn off in the last, 3 or 4 weeks. I don't know if that's because he didn't really test at Indy or what, or maybe just Matthew Golden 40 caught everyone off guard, but I still think he's the best wide receiver prospect, assuming Travis Hunter is not a full-time wide receiver in the class, and so I will take him here at the third pick. I think he is probably going in the top 15 to 20 picks the NFL draft, and that draft capital plus his production profile should be a very strong chance to hit for us in fantasy.
I did see him on the sideline at the combine, just backpack on. Wide receivers there.
Two or one strap?
He had
Key
two
question.
when I saw him.
He was two strapping. Okay. All right.
He meant business.
Yeah.
What does that say to the other wide receivers? Like some of these guys,
that he wears two straps?
Maybe, but I was going for more of so some of these guys
just
getting
on the sideline chilling.
It's like
He's
good
like,
work,
"You,
guys.
Go run around out there.
Yeah,
I know
you
where I'm
could-
going."
You guys could get a participation trophy.
Oh, man.
there are players there at the combine that have worked their entire lives. Just to get invited to the combine is a massive thing.
Yes, it is.
And he's like,
And he's like, yeah.
it's not
Thanks
really
and
my
all.
thing. I don't really want to do this. I almost want to go ahead and pencil in who you have at 104, Mike.
Yeah, that's
We know
easy.
who it is.
It's the demon. It is Travion Henderson. I am so overly in love with his skill set. It is perfection for fantasy football. Like Hampton, if you the argument of is Hampton a better overall running back than Henderson? And it's like I think that's a fair conversation to have, but Henderson will be more Hampton will be the more, gets 5 to 10 where you're just getting good chunk yardage. That's how I look at him. Not that he's slow by any means, but it's just Henderson's quickness combined with the speed. He's the guy who, in my opinion, will be ripping off 40-yard rushing touchdowns with regularity.
It's interesting because I think you can make an argument that you could take Judkins over him. And
sure, Judkins.
That's what I want to bring up.
He tested extremely well.
Yes.
I
So
haven't
Judkins
loved
4.48.
I haven't loved not that it's been forever, but it's the feelings I got watching Jahmyr Gibbs, and Kyle, you remember how much I loved Gibbs in the process. That's how those are the tingly feelings I get watching Travion play.
Yeah. The thing about Judkins that I just want to add in the mix, because I'm going to take him here at 105. I would have taken him ahead of Henderson because I think he projects.
Yeah, I got it. You don't want demons on your team. I get it.
I definitely
Makes
don't.
sense.
I think Judkins projects to score more touchdowns at the next level, just in terms of a goal line role. And his breakout age, his size speed combo, I think he profiles
His drip.
as. Say it again?
His drip, dude, those shorts in the championship game. I mean, those things were barely covering up his sensitive area. those things were some
He
Daisy
could have Chris
Dukes.
Jones.
He was in danger. He was in danger.
It was also as the game went on, I was like, are they getting shorter?
They kept going up.
So much
It was awesome.
For those that aren't aware, in the national championship game, Quinton Judkins, air quotes, football pants were basically tight shorts.
So my
something.
son is in the age of he's just getting going in tackle, played a couple seasons, and he's told me about this. This is the cool thing now is you pull your pants up, as in not at the waist, at the knees. So the knee pads, those things that protect your kneecap from getting banged up. No, I'd rather look cool and pull. And then I'm like, oh man, I'm so old. Because I'm like, oh guys, your knees are gonna get hurt. But yeah, this is the thing now is because it's a big deal because in in youth sports, they're like, no, your knees will be covered in pads. Like, you have to have a mouth guard and you have to cover your knees and knee pads. And the guys just keep trying to sneak them pants up.
Okay, well, for the next pick, so Judkins is the pick, Kyle?
Yeah, but I just want to ask, like, is there a giant gap between these two for you guys? Because I feel like, let's say they both go in round 2. Okay, round 1, then I don't think we have to have a conversation. But if they both go in round 2, and I look at the team fit of where they're going, like, I can make an argument where Judkins is like, oh, this is a good offense. Let's say he goes to the Chargers. I would be ecstatic for him to go there in a scheme that I really like. And there's just everything in his profile and the way that he produced in college says, like, this is a player that can work at the next level. And then he showed out the combine. So
I would
have them
steal
pretty
your
close.
idea of the tiers of, like, I'm going to go Genty, his own tier. I'm putting Henderson in his own tier. Then Hampton.
Oh, wow.
And like, but I don't think Judkins is in the Hampton tier. So I don't know. I like Travion Henderson a lot, guys.
What?
Yeah, Judkins, quite frankly, on tape, I didn't see what we saw in Indy. Like, he doesn't profile watching him as like this super explosive athlete the way Henderson is. But when he tested the way he did at his size, that raised my eyebrows a lot. The one thing working against Judkins, in my opinion, I mean, he checks a lot of the boxes. Like, the production profile is there. He's an early declarer, played at big schools, tested well at the combine. The only thing is that he didn't have a great reception profile coming out. And not that guys can't become good pass catchers in the NFL, just historically, like, that's not generally the trend. So, like, I agree with Michael what he's saying with Henderson. Like, the way Henderson plays is the way that I like to roster fantasy running backs, which is ultra explosive, super efficient, can catch the football. That's kind of what I look for personally, versus I need this guy to get 19 carries in a game and he has to score to be an RB1 for us in fantasy. That's where I lean Henderson over Judkins, but I will say I definitely was very impressed with Judkins' testing this past weekend.
What if I take what you just said, I counterpunch with he was targeted more frequently on a per route basis than any other running back in this class?
That's a nice little note.
Ha!
That you would have landed your counterpunch.
Yeah, that would have hurt.
And then I would say, yeah, but shut up, Four Eyes, and then I'd punch you back.
Who cares?
All right.
Nerd.
Next, after Kyle's nerd selection of Judkins, the 40 time felt bad for Caleb Johnson, but I still think he's a really good running back, and I still think that there's way more breakaway runs on tape that, like, I think he plays faster than what the test was. So I will take Caleb Johnson here at the 6th overall selection. For context, at his size, his percentile for speed score was still about 75%. So, like, even though relative to the other guys in the class, it didn't seem great, it's not like he was out there, running in molasses. Like, it wasn't terrible at his size. So I will take Caleb Johnson here and kind of fade the recent, FUD on him, so to speak.
Remember when Dalvin Cook was slow?
Oh, so slow.
This is what we're saying. A 4.57 is perfectly fine. Like,
Fast enough.
Yes, it is definitely fast enough. All right. Here is where I think this is where the draft begins, because this is where you're like, what in the freaking world do I do with Travis Hunter, who is just such a gifted wide receiver? You had the the Browns. The report was the Browns view him as a DB, and you're like, uh-oh. But then more stuff starts coming out of the combine of teams saying, no, we look at him more as a wide receiver. And then you combo that with some more sources from the combine saying, we think that Travis Hunter is the top wide receiver in this class. And it's like, do we get a team where those two opinions merge together of they think he's the best wide receiver in the class, and they think that he should be primarily a wide receiver in the league? Because if he's playing full-time corner, which, like, I mean, the reports swayed me. I had Travis Hunter down at like wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6, because the risk is so massive, right? Like, you could light this rookie pick completely on fire, because he could come out, be an all-star DB, and play on just a couple packages here or there on the offensive side of the football, and that's no good. Like, that will be devastating. You can't play that. So you're just completely lighting a pick on fire. But I am going to let the current trend sway me. This is why the NFL draft is going to be really, really important, especially the managers, GMs talk a lot after the draft, and which I'll plug him because he's a good buddy of mine. But Scott Barrett works over at Fantasy Points. Every year he puts out a he watches all the GM stuff, and like, it's good work. So I just steal his work, and I'm like, oh, this is good stuff. Thanks, Scott. So that'll be huge. Is what does the GM say about Travis Hunter after they draft him? But I'm going to take him right here. I'm going to take Travis Hunter.
Okay, I had him at 7th as well, and I was going through the thought process of the same thing, Mike. Like, what if this pick is lit on fire? And then also, adjacently thinking, a lot of these picks are often lit on fire. Let's be honest. Like,
yeah, but I would rather it be because that player went out there and I was wrong and they failed, not because I was right that this is a great football player. He just plays the wrong position.
Yes, I just think at the end of the day,
you're saying you could shoot for upside in the late first anyway, because the hit rate here it's not great, right? I mean, every class is different, but the hit rate, generally speaking, once you get to the back of the first round, is pretty bad. So you might as well shoot for the moon, is kind of what you're arguing, right, Kyle?
How confident were we in saying that Keon Coleman will work the next level, Adonai Mitchell will work the next level? I know we have a year of looking back and saying, oh, well, these are boom-bust players, but...
you can go back and check the tape on my confidence in Keon Coleman. It was very low.
We poked holes in if this player at Florida State didn't do this, and the same thing with A.D. Mitchell. I also think A.D. Mitchell's in the wrong offense, so he's just not going to work that way.
Well, he doesn't have anyone who can throw him the ball.
Oh, man. You done with Richardson? We out?
I only liked Richardson for fantasy football.
Are you still in for fantasy football?
No, because he's not going to keep his job. It was contingent on him being the starting quarterback for the Colts.
Guys, I have incredible news to report. I mean, free agency is, a little over a week away. Jeremy Fowler put a little, here's what I'm hearing about the Colts' plans for competition.
Oh, okay.
Daniel Jones, right, is kind of one of the names that he makes so much sense, like a compliment to if Richardson doesn't work. The other name on the list.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, please. Yes.
Trey Lance and Richardson in the same quarterback room.
How much did Lance's agent pay him to say that?
A lot, I'm sure. But I just thought it was interesting.
Oh, so interesting, especially because I have a roster that has Richardson and Lance on it.
The boys.
Yeah. If you're going for a crash and burn team.
Some mistakes were made.
Yes. Okay, so I'm starting to get to a tier break. I think after 8 or 9 is where I feel a little uncomfortable. But I think with Travis Hunter, we were in our mock draft that's in the Dynasty Pass, and I had the decision at 105 between Travis Hunter or Emeka Egbuka. And I think at the end of the day, one of those seems very safe. One of those seems really risky. It's okay. Like, if you want to shoot for the moon and you're wrong, you're probably wrong about a lot of stuff, people. Me too. But I think Egbuka feels the safest of these wide receivers, and he's getting some first-round love for teams like the Chargers, or I don't know if that's the best landing spot, but like the Steelers were one of them. I don't really know where he's going to land, but I think he's going to end up being a late first. I think.
And some context,
second, yeah.
Some context for everyone. We have we just did our second rookie mock draft in the Dynasty Pass. It will either be up by the time you hear this or up shortly after. Travis Hunter fell all the way to the 112 in this mock, and that's what I mean. I think once you get past like that 106 range, it's going to be that game of who's willing to do it. Because 112 is like, oh, yep, I get it. If someone took him at 105, I go, oh, yeah, I get it. So that'll be really fun for everybody.
For sure.
And would you take Egbuka if you knew that Hunter was who would be next up on your list, Mike? If you knew Hunter was a cornerback?
Then it would be, here, let me check. I got Luther next.
Okay. He's a little lower for me, Betz.
Where I would take Burden, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I was just asking.
We might
if
find
Hunter's
out in
not
this
on the
mock
board.
draft, Kyle. Let's do the
You
mock
might find
draft.
out.
Okay.
So at this pick, this is the 9th overall pick. I think there's consideration that you start to give the tight ends, Warren and Loveland, kind of in this range here. I'm not as into Golden as other people. I think Burden's a totally fine pick in this spot. I actually am going to turn to the tight end position. And Kyle, it's not who you think. We're doing our tight end breakdown show next week. I'm in love with Colston Loveland.
That's fine. I thought you were
Which I
gonna be
think
like,
is-
I'm taking Harold Fannin here, guys. I'll be like, dude, you're ruining the mock draft.
Like, this is not right. I generally am more willing to invest higher rookie picks in tight ends than I think you guys are. I know Jason historically has not been into that, but I think he's a really, really strong prospect. Super young. He didn't do any testing or anything because he's coming off shoulder surgery. But I'm prepping for our show next week, watching all of his tape, and I'm just like, this guy moves like a wide receiver. Like, to me, between him and Warren, it's kind of just, pick your flavor. Like, one guy's a true inline tight end. The other guy's more of a move tight end, which is Loveland. Those are the guys that I'm just drawn to historically. The quarterback play this past year at Michigan was a train wreck. They really couldn't throw the ball whatsoever, but still was decently efficient. And you put on his tape and you can see him move. So he's a guy who's gotten round one buzz the entire offseason thus far. I think he's probably going in the top 20 to 25-ish picks. A lot of mocks have him at like Denver, places like that. So I think he's a guy who could have opportunity right away, and I like the tape. So I'll take Loveland at the 9th pick.
Do you feel like you just have turned your back on your entire family and Penn State truthers?
And not taking Tyler Warren?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of do feel like that. But right now, for fantasy, I prefer Loveland.
Are you
just
wearing
tell him,
a Tar Heels shirt?
That's where my sister went to college. UNC.
But not you.
I did not go there.
Okay,
was
I'm
James
hold on.
Madison.
I
That's
just
where I
want to
went.
confirm.
JMU.
So, a person that you're related to went to that school. You did not.
Where? North Carolina?
Yeah.
My sister, and that's where she met her husband, my brother-in-law.
Okay, but you're a Penn State guy.
Grew up in Pennsylvania, close to the area. My wife's, both of her parents, both of her brothers went to Penn State. She's the only one who didn't. I met her in college. But they have season tickets, so we go to the games with them every year. It's like when you grow up around the college, you root for them. I don't know.
I'm trying to figure out, are you a Tar Heel or are you a Penn State guy?
See, Betz, West Coast people don't understand what college football's like.
I root for Carolina, but I don't care as much about Carolina as I do Penn State. If that answers your question.
Sir, you say I don't understand. No, I understand that if you are a U of A person, you are not an ASU person. Like, if you I don't like. I want ASU to win. I don't want Cal to win. Like, I don't want Oregon to win. I don't want Texas to win. It's college is like an even stronger allegiance than a pro team, because that's your thing. That's disgusting, Betz, and you should be ashamed of yourself. And I'm telling your family
that
I'm
didn't
taking
take
Tyler
Warren.
Warren. I'm taking Tyler Warren, by the way. F110. I love both Loveland, Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren. I love them both very, very much. Will one of them or both of them give us? They're not Brock Bowers, so we can chill with that conversation. They don't strike me as that type of a player. Could one of them be like a Trey McBride eventually? I think that is very possible. So it does, just to kind of further the conversation about when you take a tight end here, it does kind of suck because you should not be counting on them. Like, if you're like, I am one tight end away from competing, and you take a rookie here, the chance that your rookie tight end is going to be the guy that you get to plug in every single week and count on fantasy points. Yes, it's happened 2 years in a row where one of them did it. The third time's the charm, I guess. If we can give me a third time a rookie finishes at number one at the tight end position, then fine. We'll completely change how we think about that position. But it's hard. It's hard. It took Trey McBride was dead for a year and a half. Like, he was just completely gone. And now he's the tight end one or tight end two, depending on who you like between him and Bowers. So, but I like Warren. I'm willing to wait for him, is essentially what the way that I'm putting it.
I'm excited to talk about those tight end prospects next week because there are some parts of Loveland and his metrics that are better than Bowers. I'm not saying he's a better player. It's just the way that he was used in the offense. He was the dude this past year. So we'll talk about them next week. What's the earliest that you would take a tight end, guys?
Right around this range, I think.
I could see myself at 6 or 7, maybe.
I don't know that. I mean, draft capital will dictate it for the running backs. Like, I'm not taking if Caleb Johnson drops into like the 3rd round, I'm not taking. I don't want to take him. I don't want to take a 3rd round running back over a top 20 tight end.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right, 111. I'm going to take Luther Burden, who at points of this process, I thought he was the wide receiver 2 in this class. He's kind of moved around. He's kind of slid down boards. I think what I'm trying to figure out with Luther Burden is his sophomore year was awesome in the SEC, 1,200 plus receiving yards, 9 touchdowns, and he's used in the return game where it's like this usually translates to the next level. So I like the best parts of Luther Burden. There's also an opportunity where he's just used in a lot of short area yak stuff, and those things year to year don't always work unless you're, I don't know, you have a couple of good Debo years and then some terrible Debo years. So I'm just not really fully sure.
I think if we got Debo out of Luther Burden, we'd all be pretty stoked about that rookie
but that's
pick,
like the best of the yak players. That's like the best of the best. So I think 111, I think he feels good, especially, I mean, if he goes in the 1st round, I think he can move up a little bit further here. If he goes to the 2nd round, then he kind of hits this fringe 1st round territory. So Betz, finish us off.
Yeah, quite frankly, I'm not a Matthew Golden guy, but this is kind of the part where it's like, it's back of the 1st. The NFL loves him, apparently. He's going in the 1st round. I think it would be silly to say I know better than the NFL, and I would, take, I don't know, Trey Harris or Scottaboo or something like that over him, so I will not be doing that. I will take Matthew Golden here and hope that the NFL is correct.
Yep. This is where I have him, and I don't feel great about it. So there's a certain point with rankings where you kind of get boxed and you're like, this is a 1st round wide receiver. I can't punish him too much because I don't like his profile and his production. It's like, this is a 1st round wide receiver. And
draft capital means a ton for these guys.
In years past, this is where we were like, but we like Sky Moore. We like his production profile. He went in the 2nd round, so I'm going to put him at 107, which is where he went that year. So sad. All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll get to round 2. All right, we're back. Mike is going to kick us off at the start of round 2 of this rookie mock draft.
All right, the disrespect and the false stops. It is Cam Scattaboo time, ladies and gentlemen.
Ooh.
Yes.
I had a different Cam going there.
No. Cam Scattaboo is a enigma. He is a very mysterious situation here. He truly only has the 1 year. That's a red flag. But that year was unbelievable. Like, production wise, you go look at his market shares, they're absurd. Like, they're Ashton Genty type of being that part of the offense. Watching him play, he is not the most athletically gifted player, but he still looks fast enough. Like we said, 4.57. Scattaboo did not run, so I'm guessing he would have ran in the 4.6s probably, and then that would have been, people would have torn that to pieces. He did participate in both jumps, the vert and the broad, which he put up good numbers there, and those are important numbers to me because that's short area explosion.
Area.
Yeah, and it's like, give me that over long speed because most players are not. It's rare when you get a guy who's like, no, I hit 40-yard touchdowns. You get guys like who are elite players like Bijan, and his long is like it's never 90 yards. Like, it's good enough. So I'm going with Scattaboo here. He's so weird because that feels like dynasty players just are not willing to they're not willing to go all in, but the numbers are there. I think the draft capital will be there. Maybe that's what everybody's waiting for, is just to see, is he a day 2 guy? And then if he goes in day 2, maybe then people will adjust their rankings. But I have said publicly, like, I'm in on Cam Scadaboo until the NFL tells me not to be. And I think getting him at the 201 is going to be pretty awesome for people.
I think it's a good way to hold it with an open hand to say, I like this player, I like the film, the production's there, and yet I'm still willing to be, wrong. The NFL says like, hey, this doesn't work here. Does it feel weird that all these other running backs did gain steam where he's mostly like felt neutral right now, Cam Scadaboo? Like, there's just other players in the mix. Do you feel that at all, like where he is in the rankings for you?
The fact that he was at least willing to do the 2 jump tests, he didn't just do a full. If he went, nope, I'm not participating in anything, that would have been alarming to me. I think he was making a business decision of I don't test well at the 40. Some guys just don't test well at the 40, but watch the film. And Scadaboo is, at least in that year, and that one magical season with ASU, he was an absolute dog out on the football field.
I'm going to keep it short and simple and take Cam Ward here. I would be fine taking him at the end of the first round. And I'm just curious, guys, which of these teams would help him the most in terms of like impact right away? So Titans are picking at 1, Browns at 2, Giants, Raiders. It's really hard for us to see him drop below that. So which of those landing spots would you say, like, I would be most excited for fantasy?
You got an answer, Betz?
I think I like the Browns, honestly. I know it's been rough in recent years, but I still think Stefanski's a good coach. Jerry Jeudy finally put it all together. Cedric Tillman had a nice little stretch there. Maybe he can actually develop into a consistent wide receiver too. David Njoku, like the weapons are there. So I think there compared to like Tennessee would be much better in my opinion for fantasy.
I can get with that take. I think all 4 of those teams are exciting. Like they all have. I don't look even as bad as the Titans were. You take Will Levis off that team and put a competent quarterback on there. I think the Titans are a much, much better team. So I think all 4 spots, while at name value, it looks real bad for all 4 of them. But in reality, I think that they're all exciting and he can become fantasy relevant sooner than later. I don't know if it'll be this year, but at least soon, and break into that top 15 type of area.
Giants with Neighbors would be fun. I think that would be a fun little connection there. So 2 of 3 bets.
All right. We talked about this player a lot last week with Jason, who was very in on Trey Harris, as was I, and I think Kyle too.
Make that a quattro, boys, because we're all in.
We're all in on a player that's probably not going in the first round. What could possibly go wrong for fantasy? So I will take Trey Harris here at the 3rd pick in the 2nd round.
All right. So we are now, we're now getting to the time where it's like, will the draft capital be there for any of these guys, or is it just lower and lower odds for all of them? I think, Kyle, you probably know where I'm going to go. I thought
about taking him last time.
Yeah, I got him in our mock on the Dynasty Pass too. Besh, baby. Woo,
I love how in Mike is.
Dude,
on Jack Besh.
I don't know. It just I went. You know how sometimes you watch a player and it doesn't work, it doesn't hit, and then
I've done that many times.
And some things shift around. You're like, okay, let me refresh. Let me make sure I have a snack. Make sure I'm not cranky. I don't have a tummy ache, and let me watch some Jack Besh highlights. Let me see the best of what you can do, dude. He can play. Like this, he can legit play. He's out of TCU. Then you have, we do have some good signal, some good correlation here from guys. So wide receivers, especially wide receivers who go ball out at the Senior Bowl, which Besh did. Like that, it does help us translate. So like draft capital may not be there for, like I was saying, of we're at the range where these guys are going to have to now. Can't just rely on, well, this guy went in the first round. Now you got to, go with your real analysis on these players, and I think that Besh can play.
Last week we did the wide receiver episode, and at the very end we had a section where we were going to name players that we're bullish on, but they're not like in our top, like basically outside of the top 8 or so. And Jack Bech was one of those players we had on there. We didn't have enough time to get to him. And it was interesting. We had him and the Iowa State wide receivers were the guys we were going to highlight. They all kind of did really well at the combine. Iowa State guys definitely showed out. But Jack Bech is one of those players where the film matches the yards per out run, especially against zone. He went to college at LSU originally, the same class as Brian Thomas Jr. Neighbors. They moved him to tight end eventually, and then he transferred. But Betz, didn't his freshman year, he led the team in receptions?
Yeah, freshman year at LSU, he led the team in receptions. That was a roster that had, I mean, we laugh kind of now in hindsight, but Keyshawn Booty, Trey Palmer, NFL guys, some dudes named Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors. So maybe this guy can play. And, he didn't do a lot of the testing at the combine, but he looked very good in the gauntlet drill. I know a lot of people are praising him for that. So he's a guy that you think about kind of as the season ended and just momentum from then till now, it's going in the right direction for Jack Bech. So yeah, I'm definitely in on him as a second round rookie pick.
Yeah. And the day that we were talking about Jack Bech, it was last week. I just went through, watched every single route, target, everything. I posted the best of Jack Bech. And Mike happened to be messaging me about him. I had no idea that I was deep in the Bech world. couldn't stop, man. So I think he's going to be a player that our podcast overall is going to be higher on. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, we'll burn down with him. It's fine.
That's right.
We'll cancel the show.
He's one of our guys. I was really excited to take him, but I also knew where you were in the order. So that's on me. I shouldn't have done that. Next wide receiver that I have, because I think I have about 4 or 5 wide receivers all together here that I would be totally happy with. And I think this brings up the conversation that second round picks this year, I feel excited. Like I'm in a league where I have 4 second round picks. It just happened. Like this is a team that I was rebuilding. And I'm like, okay, maybe I get 2 of those to work. But like, I think there's shots for players to have meaningful roles right away that are going to be day 2 picks of this group. So we talked about the wide receivers as a whole for the first round being like, I don't know, maybe there's 4 guys that end up in the first round of the NFL draft. I think there's going to be 6, 7 dudes in the day 2 that were like, I'm excited about these guys. So I think Stanford's Alec Iomanor is who I would take next. He tested out really, really well. He's one of our risers in the Dynasty Pass. He ran a 4.44 and his vertical was 38.5 inches. Like, I think he's a player in the right spot, has the size, speed, the physicality that he can work at the next level. So he's who I'm taking at 205.
I like it. Yeah, he was going to be my pick if you didn't take him. So I'm with you on that. I'm going to go back to the running back position here. And the athletic testing for Devin Neal was not awesome this past weekend. But you go back to what he did on tape, you go back to his production profile, it's all pretty good.
His burst score, like explosive type testing, was okay.
Yeah, like it wasn't. I think a lot of these guys got hurt because so many other guys were just so good in the testing that relatively speaking,
maybe
they didn't seem to be athletic or great testers. But production's there. I think the tape is pretty decent. I love his like ability to change direction without actually stopping speed. Just really fluid with the ball in his hands. So I'll take Devin Neal here in the middle of the second round.
I feel like Devin Neal, I will get excited if it's the right landing spot. But if it's just like he's a late, third round pick on a team and he's just the back, I'm like, I felt like his tape was fine. Mm-hmm. I feel like, I think I remember saying like, I don't know if he's great at anything, which is, that can work at the NFL level, but I'll let draft capital kind of dictate where I have him, but he's somewhere in this range too. Mike, you were up at 207.
Man. So there's a couple wide receivers here who I think are worthy of being drafted here. Man, trying to dig through who I would really take. So it's like I like Royals. And then Jaden Higgins is interesting. Like I think that he caught some steam, as we keep saying, off of the weekend. Projected. Let me double check projected draft capital at this moment. Wow. Okay, so Higgins is now one spot. If you're looking at NFL mock draft database, Higgins is one spot ahead of Royals. I thought Royals was ahead of him, but maybe that has moved. So
they're
I'm going to go
almost a coin flip.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jaden Higgins at Iowa State here. Liked the tape, and like he can win on the outside. Like he's more of the the prototypical. I'm going to beat you on the outside. I'm going to catch it, and I'm going to get tackled right away. And his number of his percentage of targets that were contested is actually lower than you would have imagined for that type of an archetype and how they were utilizing him. So it's like so he's getting more separation than just pure 50-50 guys. He's a 50-50 type player who I think is maybe we're talking a cool, like 52-48 player, something like that. So I'm going to go here. He's one of the we got a lot of big wide receivers in this draft, but I'm going to go with Jaden Higgins. And
What's funny?
And Kyle, I had already razzed him, but are you allowed to take wide receivers out of Iowa State after the fiasco of a couple years ago? The Hakeem Butler?
Yeah, Mike, speaking of the great Hakeem Butler, which,
Legend.
depending on
Dude,
what
he
where
is
you
crushing
play.
the USFL.
Thank you.
I'm not joking. He actually is crushing the USFL.
He was a really fun wide receiver in college.
He was the player. Remember when I was like, I will say this person is good until the NFL tells me that they don't like him, which that happens. I mean, like,
whoa. 4th round draft capital, the Arizona
Was he
Cardinals. Yeah.
I thought he was 5th.
No, man. I mean, it really didn't matter.
I mean, I feel like you probably have that locked in.
Jaden Higgins, what's interesting is the comp that I had for him is he's a faster version of Michael Pittman Jr. I'm like, that sounds like a player Mike would like.
That dude, I still think Pittman's good.
Jaden Higgins, I think, is in this range. Jalen Noel, who is also from Iowa State, he blazed at the combine. If you're looking for a slot wide receiver on day 2, I think he's a good selection. I am going to take Jalen Royals here. I know that he gets a knock a little bit from being a smaller school, Utah State. His game, like the best way to describe him is like he's not going to be this player, but like Rashee Rice, like a bigger slot wide receiver that like is used in a way where it's like you can get yak stuff. You're not like Jalen Nola is a slot wide receiver. Jalen Royals is a bigger dude who can win after the catch too. So I like Royals. We almost brought him up last week at the very end, and his yards per outrun stuff looks good behind the scenes too. I wrote him up somewhere. So Jalen Royals at the 208.
Okay. We might as well just keep this wide receiver train going here. And these guys that we've talked about, the 3 of them, I'll take Noel right here. Who, like Kyle said, was a huge winner after the combine. Also showed out well at the Senior Bowl. So these Iowa State guys collectively have had a really good offseason. Fool me once, fool me twice. We'll see. But I think Noel's a really interesting, like late 2nd round rookie pick right now, who I think after this past weekend is probably going to sneak into a day 2 pick.
All right, we got 3 more picks here.
All right, my last one.
Yeah, there's a couple of names, and at the end, we'll throw out some other guys that were like, they're right on the fringe.
All right. This one, with the non-draft information, it's a tougher decision because looking at mock drafts, apparently mock drafts have Dylan Sampson out of Tennessee preferred over Ollie Gordon. And, I mean, we broke down Dylan Sampson of like, is it going to work? Is it going to work in the NFL? It's like, I think I like him, but Tennessee had I know they hit with Kamara, but whatever. But like they keep fooling us with players, and I feel like I've been fooled enough by Tennessee. So I'm going to go Ollie Gordon here. His career did not turn out the way that I think people thought it was on the way to turning out, but there's still a good player in there.
His 40-yard time, it matched exactly what I saw in film of a player that starts really slow and then builds up his speed. And so you could see based on
like locomotive style. I mean, he's a bigger dude, 6'1", 226.
His 10-yard split, his 20-yard split, like he got faster as he was going, but out of the gate, it was like, oh, this is just lumbering here. Compared to the other dudes that were just blazing at the 40, it looked different. But I think he's the player of this group that you're like, okay, I think if this hits, this has a much higher ceiling than some of these other dudes like the, RJ Harveys or
right, like Dylan Sampson. Like I think if they both hit, Ollie Gordon will be the better player.
I was a little sad that Dylan Sampson, he measured in a little shorter too at 5'8". I was like, I want him to work. Like I want him to be a player.
Right.
And my comp was always like James Cook. Like, he's a little smaller, but like in the right offense, this can work. He's good in the red zone. So it's kind of a coin flip for me between him and DJ Giddens out of Kansas State, who showed out at the combine, early declare. Like, he did everything you were supposed to do in terms of explosiveness. They're like, oh, this matches what I saw in film. So I think it's kind of a coin flip here. I don't want the combine to weigh too much, but I am going to take DJ Giddens because I think the NFL will respond more to him than Sampson.
And I'll just take Sampson here at the last pick in the second round. Definitely share the concerns you guys had. Do you know what his actual weight was, Kyle, at the combine?
I'll look it up.
But you said 5'8" was the official measurement. Oh, I see her here. 200 pounds. So 5'8", 200. That definitely gives you some pause. But in the back of the second, where we're already kind of factoring that in, we'll see. I know Mike Renner, who does really good work for big prospecting and stuff, like, he loves Dylan Sampson. So I respect his opinion and his work. So we'll see. Definitely a way that he could slide a little bit in the NFL draft, but seems to be another one of the 500 running backs that could go in the second or third round. So I'll take Dylan Sampson here at the 212.
And speaking of measuring in, I will issue a formal apology to Devin Neal, who I thought there was absolutely no possible way that this dude was coming in around 215. I'm like, this dude is 200 if he just got out of the lake. And lo and behold, here he is at 213. But I will also then say, I got him on. People were trying to say, "Oh, Devin Neal's going to run like sub 4.4." Like, no, he's not. So I got one of them. He's way bigger than I thought, but he's also the same speed that I thought he was.
There you go. I think
calling that a win.
People might be surprised that we did not mention Shedeur Sanders here.
I cannot draft him until I know for sure. Like
know for sure the landing spot.
No, the draft capital. Like, it won't. It's such a complicated read of things because, look, quarterbacks they get pushed way up. See Daniel Jones. Weird stuff happens in the draft with quarterbacks, but it's like if Sanders goes 3, I won't be surprised. If Sanders falls into the second round, I also won't be surprised. So I don't have strong conviction or a strong read. And look, none of this is to say is talking about my opinion of Sanders as a player. This is all, does the NFL care about this guy as a quarterback? Because if he falls out of the first round, his chances of hitting, they go down substantially. I know that we've had a couple second round guys, Jalen Hurts, it worked out, but I'm very concerned right now. Like, in Superflex, it's like I'm taking Cam Ward and then I'll just go load up on these running backs if I'm drafting right now.
Yeah, Shedeur, it's so interesting. And I honestly think this could be a situation where, and we're going to get so much information between now and the actual NFL draft, that like on draft night, if for some reason he falls past, 3 or 4 or like to 6 to the Raiders, we'll see what they do in free agency. Like, it does feel like a situation where he could just slide way further than anybody thought. And we're like, whoa, he fell into the 20s and someone had to like trade up to get him kind of thing.
Like Will Levis.
Yeah, potentially. Because coming out of the combine, a lot of the talk is like, it's Cam, and then there's a huge tear gap in the NFL's eyes. And then the conversation is like, is it Shedeur? Is it Jackson Dart? Like, who knows? So yeah, I think the range on where Shedeur goes in the NFL draft is massive. So I'm with Mike and kind of just saying, like, I think he can play point guard in the NFL and deliver the ball in between the hashes. Like, he was pretty good at that in college. But Kyle has pointed this out, like his pressure type stuff is really, really not good. That's a red flag. And the NFL just doesn't seem to love him. And a lot of the conversation was like, he's going in the top 10 in mock drafts because you need quarterbacks. And that's generally not what you're looking for. Like, you want that guy to be taken in the top 5 or 10 picks because he is that good. And it seems to be the other way around when it comes to Shedeur.
You can go back if you want to and listen to the quarterback episode. But a lot of times when we look at quarterback rushing yards and we're like, oh, well, in college, they count sacks lost, yardage lost. Like, his yardage loss, like, is real yardage loss because he runs backwards. He just always runs backward, like on third down, trying to keep things alive. So in the game that we play in fantasy football, I don't feel comfortable using my first round pick on Shedeur Sanders in a Superflex league when I just see a bunch of other guys. I mean, we took Tyler Warren at the 110. Like, I feel very comfortable with him, there. Colston Loveland, who we'll talk about next week too. Like, there's some good players at the end of the first round. So I don't want people to feel like they have to take a quarterback there. Depending on your situation, if you need quarterback, I get it. But him and Dart in Superflex, it's like end of first, beginning of second, sure. I don't think they'll go there in your league. I think people will want to boost them up a little bit. But before we get out, I wanted to make sure this person was actually 24th on my list, and we didn't even get to mention him. He ran a 4.32, the fastest time at the combine. It's Baishal Tootin.
Yeah, baby.
We're going to change that drop.
Buddhist Baishal Tootin.
Dude.
Rootin', tootin'.
What a fun
guy, man.
There's so many things we could do with this.
There's
he
so
made
much
himself
content.
some money in Indianapolis. Good for him.
Think about the sponsorship. I mean, this guy, his NIL, I didn't do that research. I'm sure he just got so much stuff from like Beano, everything. This guy's got it all.
Dude, I was going to reference Beano, and I wasn't sure if you guys had any idea what that was.
Hey, I'm almost 40. Not there yet, but
But like, does Beano even exist anymore?
Let's find out.
We'll get our team on it next week. We'll talk about tight end prospects. Check out the Dynasty Pass, ultimatedraftkit.com.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. If you want to take your Dynasty skills to the next level, check out thefantasyfootballers.com.